I created a video that was titled Distracting Black Folks to Destruction in an Election Year. It was based upon my book, One Eighth of a Man, Hate for the Skin I'm In. It was too lengthy to post the entire video on TikTok, so I posted an excerpt and posted the entire video on YouTube. And as with posting videos, you often get comments. So I got one comment in particular that I want to highlight. This is from a user or creator, not sure, because I don't know anything about him, called Decker Tyrell. And I'll put this close so you can read it if you want to. But his comment basically said, how was the survey conducted? Which families surveyed and over which areas? You are promoting false claims with no substance. People like you promote hate in America. Provide details of the data and who by provide facts, not racism. Well, obviously, Decker Tyrell considers him to be some sort of a authority figure to demand facts, figures, details, all those kind of things. You know, basically, the title of my book, One Eighth of a Man, was based upon a survey that found that black families in the United States had a net worth on the median 1/8 that of white families in the United States. So, Mr. Decker Tyrell, as you've often heard, or maybe you haven't, I'm glad you asked. Because the data that the title of my book was derived from was a survey by the United States Federal Reserve. I hope that answers that question. It was conducted 2019, okay? And what it found is that the median net worth of a white family in the United States is $188,200. And the median net worth of a black family in the United States is $24,100. Now, if you take the $188,200 and divide that by the 24,100, you come up with 7.8 and some rounding times difference. So basically 8 times difference in median net worth between a white family and a black family in the United States. All of that is in my book, One Eighth of a Man, plus a whole lot more. Basically, how did we get to this state? But what I want to talk about today is something I'm going to call the smoke and the fire of racism and discrimination. We know slavery occurred in the United States, and we know a lot of right-wing folks don't want to talk about it. They don't want it taught in their schools. They don't want book material present. They just want to say, that's done. That's water under the bridge. The fire of racism and discrimination is what I have in this book. That's the fire. The fire are the real world effects of what took place. So all those years since the end of slavery, we have a situation where black families in the United States have a median net worth 1/8 that of a white family. But that was 2019 data. A later survey, and you can look it up. Actually, it's condensed in the Pew Research Center report based on the Federal Reserve data. Is black families have slipped backwards. Okay, now less than 1/9 that. And Decker Tyrell, if you want to know about that, you can just look it up. I could. So, what does that mean, real world? Because that's the empirical data. But I can see, and as I drive around, I can look and see $1 million houses in the area I'm in. There's a neighborhood close by. There are no black folks in that neighborhood. Less than a quarter mile across a major highway, there are condemned homes. And as I drive through there, it looks like it's almost all black people in that neighborhood, at least on that street. Some homes are being lived in and looks like they should be condemned. So that is the fire of racism, the real world effects. That difference, 1/8, is so massive that we're talking about folks that don't even have the same life experience, even though they're sharing the same geographic area. I see folks walking, a lot of black folks walking. They don't have transportation. If they're riding bicycles, it's not for recreation, it's for transportation. And if you think about slavery, and here's something I want you to think about, because we always hear about Dr. Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. And that's what all the kids quote when, Black History Month and all that. That was in 1963 when he made that speech. He did another speech in 1967. It was called "The Other America." And I would encourage everyone to look up and read the transcript of his "Other America" speech. Matter of fact, his widow, Coretta Scott King, told someone that speech is what got him assassinated, that they killed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. over the "Other America" speech. The "Other America" speech was a speech demanding economic parity. And as I had said in the previous video, the end of slavery, they said we were freed. I always contended we were released. And so did Dr. King. He said we were free to get rained on, be out in the elements, not have shelter. So even when you see those scenes on movies where somebody's released from prison and someone's there to pick them up, when our predecessors were released from slavery, there was no one there to pick us up. There wasn't a car, there wasn't a bus. We didn't even have the previous cover of the slave quarters. So you were released into nothing. Where did you go? What did you do? Where did you sleep? Sure, you had the shelter that God provided. You had the ground, but that's the foundation of the manifestation of what we are experiencing now that created the 1/8 of a man status. Hundreds of years of increasing the wealth of others without compensation. So, Decker Tyrell, that's where the information basis for the title came from. You can look it up yourself. But the reality is that 1/8 of a man, that is true. And I see it every day. And it's not just a catchphrase.